Denim-wrapped nightmares, what is happening? First of all, shout out and thank you for your support. And secondly, I want to tell the people about Public Domain, their next favorite adult animated sitcom that you're going to love more than any animated show you've ever seen before, because you've already seen these characters before. These characters exist in a world where they've passed up their copyright, and now they're free to use for me in the public domain, and we're going to do it, and we're going to voice them by a bunch of supernatural characters, and it's going to be your favorite show. Now, we need your help to make this show because we can't do it by ourselves, and the executives are sitting on their asses, so go to our Indiegogo campaign. You'll find it down here, over there, or up there. I'm not really sure. It will be somewhere. Check it out. Donate a little bit, donate a lot. We got some great Christmas perks, including a naughty Santa card of me that involves, well, naughty things. So check us out, support us if you can. If you can't support us, thanks. Share us, like us, subscribe us, all the things that make online campaigns successful so you can have the next greatest adult animated TV show.
Welcome to Denim-wrapped Nightmares, Tipsy Exchange podcast, where we explore the Supernatural series, episode by episode.
Over drinks, we'll discuss the lore, the gore, and what we adore about the Winchesters and their adventures.
I'm Berly, and I'm a new fan of the series.
I'm LA, and I'm here along for the ride. Now let's get tipsy.
Hello, LA.
Hey, Berly.
On our last episode, Houses of the Holy, we got a little religious, got some angel talk up in this bitch. As Sam and Dean went to investigate the murders of several people who claimed that an angel came to visit them and that they were carrying out God's will by murdering some frankly not good people.
True, yeah.
Which they didn't say it in the episode, but I theorized because they were all going to the same church. They were all going to the church of the vengeful spirit that ended up being a priest from that church. I think these were people who were confessing their sins to him, and so he knew.
Oh, that's right. I think I remember you saying that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I said that in the episode, in our last episode, but I think that's how. Like, he knew that they weren't good, that they were coming to church and putting on a I'm a moral person facade, and they really weren't.
Mm-hmm.
But the brothers, took care of that. Sam went and did a seance with another priest who performed the last rites, and the vengeful spirit was set free. He allowed himself to ascend to, we'll assume, heaven, while Dean went and chased the last guy who was marked for murder. And Dean couldn't explain it, that in a hot pursuit, there's this final destination death with this pole flying from a truck that got in a wreck.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what, Sam? Like, I don't believe in angels and shit, but I also can't explain what I just fucking saw.
Yeah.
So laying the groundwork for some future things a coming that we don't really know the details of, but we know the gist of what's coming down the road.
Well, this episode we're going to talk about today has nothing to do with any of that.
Well, it's not angels, right?
Exactly. Opposite
of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This one starts out, and Sam is missing. Dean's called up Ellen, like, I don't know where he is. He's just vanished, blah, blah, blah.
Why was he just standing outside in the rain? It was
taking the call.
Yeah, he was parked off in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't a building there. There was no reason for him to be out of the car, just getting rained on for no reason.
Just to be sexy.
Is that what it was?
Sure.
It was just sexy, mysterious. Dean
wet,
leaned up against the Impala, all wet and everything.
Yeah,
there seemed to be no reason for him to be standing in the rain.
There definitely wasn't, but
I guess it's easier to film than inside the car, though. So
maybe,
I don't know. I'm not a director.
Well, anywho, Dean is very concerned. He can't find him. Lo and behold, while he's on the phone with Ellen, Sam calls in. We didn't hear Sam, but from Dean's reaction, he's super panicked, needs help. And of course, good old Dean rushes to Sammy's side and finds him in a motel, which I will say this motel actually on the outside looked like a legit motel.
Mm-hmm.
Inside, not so much. It's like all the other ones. And Sam is sitting there and he's got bloody hands, blood all over his shirt, and he doesn't remember a damn thing. And already I felt like something seemed a little off. I mean, obviously, since Sam doesn't usually just run off on his own all the time and then doesn't remember shit. They kind of retrace Sam's steps. Tracks. Sam's tracks.
Retrace your tracks, retrace your steps.
Whatever, for the last couple days.
One of those is the right saying.
Yeah. And they end up at a storage locker and they open it and there's this old school VW Bug, which I was excited about.
You were.
And it's definitely like an old one. And they open it up and neither one of them gloves or anything.
That's the Winchester style, man.
I mean, they just start open the door. Sam, his finger swipes blood on the steering wheel. I think Dean does something else. And I'm like, guys, you're just putting your fingerprints everywhere. Not to mention you're touching other people's like blood. And then just conveniently in the back seat is this gigantic knife that has blood goop still on it. And Sam just, picks it up willy-nilly. No big deal. Don't worry about a crime scene or anything, guys.
It makes like this sticky leftover because it's been sitting there. So it makes this sticky, gross noise when he picks it up off the leather seat.
Yeah.
They do figure it out, though, because Sam does say, do you think I used this knife to kill someone? And Dean doesn't really answer, and Sam immediately starts wiping the handle to get his fingerprints off the murder weapon. So it did finally click, L.A.
Yeah, but we'd be a little smarter, guys. I watch too much true crime, so that's part of it. Anywho, the next stop is a gas station, and they walk in, and the guy immediately recognizes Sam, tells him to get out. He's going to call the cops, and explains that
Popo.
Yeah, he said the Popo.
Yeah.
He tells Dean that Sam had been in the night before, drunk off his ass, walked in, grabbed like a malt liquor bottle, started just chugging it, and grabbed some cigarettes and started smoking while he was in there too. Sounds like he was a real prick the night before. Sam steps out because he's like, maybe it's better if just Dean talks to him. And Dean's basically saying, was there anything else you remember? He's like, and the guy just wants money. He's like, he didn't pay for his stuff. And so he puts some money down, and the guy's all, you know what, now that I think about it, I think he bought 2 packs of cigarettes. So Dean pulls out more money. The guy kindly doesn't end up calling the cops since Dean's kind of paying him off. And Dean walks, I think he grabs like 2 Twix on his way out, like, I'm taking these.
Yeah.
And just storms out.
The gas station attendant, I thought he was a little bit of a prick. He was
he was a brat.
Yeah, he was a little bit of a brat. But he did end up finally telling them which direction Sam took off when he left the gas station. So that led them on to their next stop.
Yeah, so they're driving, and Sam tells Dean to pull over on this just random road that's off the highway that they're on, I guess. And he's like you said, he's like, I just know. Don't question me. And they pull up to another place that's got like high security. Like the light comes on, you see the camera. There's cameras all over the place.
It was a nice house.
Yeah, which I was like expecting. I think one of them was like, should we knock? And I was like, they probably already know you're there.
Right.
But Sam finds a window that's broken out, and on the side of the house, it looked like somebody had tampered with the electrical wiring. So no power, everything's gone, busted in window.
No security system.
Which is prime for the Winchesters to just make their way in, And the place is trashed, which, for what we find out happened, I'm like, well, I guess it could have ensued from the front door all the way into wherever it happened, but it just seemed a little excessive.
Yeah.
The china cabinet was destroyed.
Yeah, what'd those dishes do to you?
Yeah. But the guys find a body of a man in what looks like an office, I think. Mm-hmm. And he's on the floor, puddle of blood, dead. And there's some sort of closet behind him that Sam asks Dean for his lockpick thing, which I want one of these things. And I want to learn how. Which, oh my God. So there was this thing, they have all these boxes now that you can subscribe to.
Yeah.
And they had one called a hobby box years ago. And so I solely subscribed to it because, and you know me, I'm not going to commit a fucking crime or anything or break and entering. But no. In my defense, like at one of my old houses, the door would get locked all the time. And I was like, if I just knew how to pick a lock. Anyway.
Why didn't you have a key?
Don't ask stupid questions. No, just kidding. Anyway, but yeah, they had a lockpick set, But it wasn't guaranteed that you were ever going to get that one. So I never got it. I got all these other ones. I got like, the ones where you can make your own little things for fishing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say friendship bracelets the way you're doing your
No,
hands
but
right
I probably
now.
did get one of those too. But no, it had the whole setup. Which, do you remember on Hannibal how he did that? He had it set up and he could.
Yeah.
It was like that whole setup.
What am I going to do with this?
Yeah. I was like, I needed the lockpick. That was going to come in so much more handy in my life, Anyway, I never got it and I'm very disappointed. But I did get some other cool stuff from there. Anyway, sidebar. Big time.
What was the name of it?
It's called Hobby Box.
Hobby Box.
Yeah. And I don't know if they're back in, but I think around the...
Lockpicks are a hobby?
It would have been for me. But I don't know if they're still in business because I think around the pandemic they were like, we have to shut down for a while. I should look it back up. Anyway, just a little nice story for everybody about me. Anyway, they opened the closet and it's this badass, just like armory, guns everywhere, knives. It's a pretty sweet setup.
Bulletin board with the strings and stuff, like the hotel room back in season 1.
And I was like, man, I'd be taking some of those guns with me.
Right?
They were pretty sweet.
But you can't take stuff that's going to lead you back to the...
I know.
Be smarter, LA.
Listen, it was a thought. That's just what I was thinking. Like, I would like to, but I know that's not what we should do. But they realized that this guy's obviously a hunter. I think Dean was like, he's either a psycho or a hunter. And he's a hunter, which in their world, they know if a hunter kills another hunter, like, you're fucked. The rest of them are coming for you. And Sam decides that he's just convinced that he did this. It's obvious. He's the one that murdered this guy. But again, he doesn't remember. Since there are cameras everywhere, they know that there's some footage at the house. And they look that up. And sure enough, it shows Sam, which I was impressed with Sam's skills after supposedly being so drunk at the gas station and taking off. And then he's at this guy's home, beats the shit out of him. And then cold-blooded just gets the guy's head, gets the knife, and slashes his throat. Yeah. And just, like, leaves him there to die and, like, stands over him and kind of watches.
I thought he knocked the guy out, and then that's why, because whenever he sat back and pulled the guy into his lap, the guy seemed, to me, like he wasn't fighting back anymore at all.
You're right.
So I think the dude might have even been knocked out, which to me makes it even more cold and just because he pulls his chin up and just slowly slits his throat. It was
totally out of character for Sam,
to say the least.
But Sam, again, even seeing it, he's like, I did it, it's me. He's just convinced he's this horrible evil thing. But they find out that the guy's name is Steve Wendell, and poor Sam, of course, finds that there's some letter on the desk from his daughter. So he's like, I killed a father. Oh, woe is me, as always. And once they're back at the hotel, excuse me.
Well, hang on. Let's go back. Because I wanted to counter you with how Sam is. I did this, which we find out at the end of the episode. Sam confesses that he actually remembered some of the stuff. So I think that's why he was just so...
It's not even at the end. It's the next... when they're at the hotel in the next...
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but that wasn't Sam. Remember?
Right.
That was still...
Well, no, I was going to talk about how he says he has this rage.
Oh, okay. No, I mean how he actually remembered fighting the dude.
Okay,
Yeah, that part. But while he's all beating himself up, so we think. We find out later he's not. But we think he's beating himself up. We think he feels really guilty. Dean is just like, no, we're taking care of business. Help me delete this footage. Sam, we need to cover our tracks. And it was really funny to see it wasn't even banter, but just the back and forth. It was like they were having two different conversations. Sam was talking about, I'm evil, I'm terrible, I've done this horrible thing. And Dean was just like, how do we delete this? How do we do this? Just on point until Dean finally got frustrated and just completely trashed the computer. Which I don't know if it's the case back then, but these days you still would have been able to get that footage.
True. He was all business.
Yes. Dean was all business. Let's cover our tracks and get the fuck out of here. While Sam was all grief and guilt and all of that. It was an interesting little back and forth, I thought.
Yeah. Dean didn't have time for Sam's emo.
Yeah, he did not. He did not have time for the drama queen stuff right now.
And I feel like it only got worse. Because after all that, they get back to the hotel. God damn it. After all that, they get back to the hotel. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. After that, they get back to the motel room, and Sam's still full emo and is just convinced he cold-blooded murdered this guy, and he was out of it, doesn't remember. And Dean's like, no, dude. And Sam confesses to Dean that there's something he's been holding back from him, and that there's just this rage he always still feels like underneath.
I'm going to make you better.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You mentioned the doctor. I'll take your. What did he say? I'll take your rage.
Release your inner rage.
Yeah.
The asylum doctor. He really got to Sam. He's still suffering, man.
Right. Yeah. He didn't do his job. And Sam is just ridiculously dramatic about it. Like, woe is me, poor me. And then
facial expressions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just everything.
And yet again, I'm like, I never have these intense, emotionally charged talks with like anybody in my life. Maybe that says a lot about me. But these two.
I saw you in New Orleans. Okay, you are a liar.
Okay, well, well,
our girls'
sober.
trip to New Orleans. Our girls' trip to New Orleans. There was.
Well, just like and maybe it's because I don't have the best like that kind of relationship with my sibling, but it's just so. It's always just such deep conversations, so emotional, and just it's so intense. I don't know. It's like, ease it up, boys. Come on.
No.
Okay. All right.
Sidebar in the motel room, the dividing wall. We're always looking for it now. It was a fish tackle with fish and like the little bobber for the fishing line.
Yes.
It took me a second to figure out what was going on. I thought it was like Jetsons or something at first. I thought it looked futuristic at first until you pointed out it was a picture of a fish.
I know. I like to always notice the rooms.
Yeah.
They're always themed. Always.
Always. It was fishing this time. I don't think any of our listeners are going to give a shit, but LA and I think it's fun.
Yes.
So you're just going to have to deal with it.
So speaking of that, set background is right behind the guys when Sam is convinced that Dean, you need to kill me.
Yes.
And he picks up the gun and puts it in Dean's hand. And I feel like Dean's face is like, yeah, what? I know how to use a gun. Why are you giving this to me? And of course, dramatic, not in such dramatic fashion as Sam, but Dean's like, no. And I think he throws it back on the bed. He's like, I'd rather die than kill him. Ugh, they're so in love with each other.
Oh my gosh, it's so obvious.
So Sam didn't like that answer, even though if it was really Sam, I think he would have been like, oh, God, I love you, bro. I love you. But instead, since we're getting an inkling at this point, this isn't really Sam. It's not Sam's behavior.
We were talking about that when they were actually in Steve, right? Steve Wendell's home. We were saying then, like, you looked at me and went, that's not Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I don't think it is. And whenever we were watching the camera footage, we were both saying, okay, he didn't look directly at the camera, so maybe it's a shapeshifter and they just didn't catch it because the eye thing. And we had already figured out. And then later on in the episode, we noted that it was all Jared Padalecki's performance.
Oh, I mean,
I was impressed.
Me too. I was thinking if his little package for like an Emmy or whatever it is, I'm surprised he didn't get a little more acknowledgement about this episode because it was great.
It was impressive. He was almost, what's the word where you're really detailed? Surgical with the little tiny facial expressions and tiny mannerisms and doing all these small things to where in the beginning you knew something was off, but you could not figure out what.
Right.
And it wasn't the dialogue. It was 100% Jared Padalecki's performance.
I mean, we know Sam's moody
Yeah.
and emo all the time, so it wasn't that at all.
No.
Just definitely the way he played it all.
The way he played and the way that he increased those little gestures and facial expressions and how he said things to make it more and more obvious as the episode progressed.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
chef's kiss art. This is by far my favorite Jared Padalecki performance I've seen so far.
Me too. Even the mannerisms, which I always think are so telling, because we ourselves have so many like particular obvious mannerisms.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was one of the tells too for us. Is it was like just the way he held himself. I think too. Just it wasn't him.
Right. It just wasn't Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kudos, Jared. I would have given you an Emmy for this performance.
I would have given you a lot of things for this performance.
That's true. Well, I think I already said it, but Sam, instead of, being like, oh, Dean, you lovely brother, instead he knocks him out.
Well, no, you said that they're so in love.
They are. Well, we know that too. But yeah, he knocks him out cold and takes off. Mm. Oh, wait, no. Big thing. Before he knocked him out, he kind of just does this like little again a dramatic turn, but again it's not a Sam dramatic turn.
Yes.
And he just looks at Dean and says, "You'll live to regret this."
Yeah.
And then knocks him out cold. I was like, "Damn!" And then that's when I was like, "Oh, that's not Sam."
That's not Sam. No, yeah, we knew for sure at that point. We only suspected it before that.
Like I get it. He's emo. He thinks Dean needs to kill him or whatever. But no, he wouldn't do that.
Mm-mm.
Next up, we see Dean. He's making oh, no.
It's the awkward.
Back it up.
Yeah, the awkward motel manager.
Oh my God.
Because it was so weird.
Yeah, the motel manager busts in and finds Dean on the ground, just like coming out of his little like coma or whatever. And he's like, "Hey, dude, you got to get out. I've got people that, need this room." And Dean walks to the door, and this couple who looks like it could be like a Playboy playmate and some business suited man just standing in the hallway waiting for the room, which I think you mentioned. You were like, "Gross, did you clean the room?"
They aren't going to clean the room. I'm like, is this a by the hour motel? Because that's the vibe I'm getting now.
Yeah.
That you're just like, "Hey, get out. They need the room. You're past checkout time."
But Dean ends up talking to the guy, the front desk guy, and asks to use the phone. He pays him because he says his buddy ran off about an hour ago.
Well, he has to use the computer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
But then he used the phone too. I didn't really understand the phone call.
So back in the day, if you wanted to track your phone or whatever, you could log onto a computer and track your GPS. Like turn the phone on and so
your TomTom?
Yeah. Your TomTom. No, not TomTom, not a separate GPS. You could track a phone GPS, but you had to get it turned on. And so he called someone and pretended he was a dad whose kid went to what was it, Justin Bieber?
That's right. No. We're not that far along.
Oh.
Justin's still probably a little baby.
Oh, okay.
JT. Justin Timberlake.
So he claimed his kid snuck out to go to a concert and he was diabetic and needed his insulin shot. Turn on the GPS to this phone number. And that's what he used. He was like, I'm on the website. I'm logged in. And so the customer service agent turned on the GPS and he tracked him that way.
Which, good job, Dean. Clever.
Way to go.
We see that he is in Duluth, Minnesota. Which I was like, what are Duluth, Minnesota? What's there? But we see Sam walk into a bar, which immediately we see Joe. And I'm like, oh, he's at the Roadhouse.
I thought that at first, too.
But it turns out she's like, oh, how'd you find me? And we're like, oh, she's been out hunting. And she's just working at this bar. And somehow Sam found out and came up on her. He did end up coming up on her. Doesn't sound right, but okay.
No, he did. He did end up coming up on her.
Hold on. We'll get there. And this was a scene where he's like sitting there with Joe and they're talking and he's like just like doing this little cute like laugh and like smiling so much, and I'm like, this is not my Sam.
Yeah,
he does not laugh this much. He does not smile this much.
The mannerisms are more exaggerated for sure in this scene, where there's no question this is not Sam Winchester.
Right.
Also, Joe looks fabulous.
Yes, you mentioned her haircut.
Her hair, the layers, it looked so good.
Which is like perfect example of how much a good freaking haircut can change the way you look.
Yeah, the hair, when we saw her last time, I think it was no exit. Her hair just it was heavy, and with the layers,
it was
stringy, flat and heavy, and just hung. Which it wasn't terrible. She's still adorable. Like she's freaking gorgeous. But this cut was just so much more flattering.
Absolutely,
she looked so good.
She did.
Looks aren't everything, but I'm just saying.
Well, the way we were raised, they are everything,
right?
But they aren't. And
80s babies.
she's already got a cold shoulder to them with what she found out about her dad and John being the reason that he was killed. Sam's really kind of like trying to charm her in this way, and it's very strange, especially because we know it's not him. At one point, they're talking about Dean, and Sam's basically telling Joe that Dean's, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for you and him. You know, just his lifestyle and you. And I think he even says he sees you as like a schoolgirl, which, what? What? Doesn't even make sense. And he puts his hand over her hand on top of the bar, and we see that he has some weird brand. It's like a circle with like a line through half of it. Half the circle.
It's kind of halfway under his sleeve, so we don't see it entirely just yet, but it's definitely a brand, like puffed up.
Yeah, we've never seen it before, but I've seen that arm and it looked good.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like stroking her hand with his thumb, and she's not having it. She kind of like is like, "What are you doing?" And he like almost in like a little bitchy move, like throws her hand away from his on the bar, and
after holding her there.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Like
he like holds onto her.
Yeah, she tries to pull away, and he like holds her there.
Yeah, and when she didn't like it, he was like,
then he threw her away. Yeah, it was totally, like those guys that will try to hit on you while they're actively insulting you because they think if they make you feel bad about yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the vibe here, is that I'm flirting with you, but I'm also putting you down.
Yeah, I honestly think you're a little bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm a chauvinistic.
And I'm more powerful than you. I'm stronger than you, and all that stupid bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. So he gets up and like starts what we think is he walked off, but oh no. He grabs that little girl, Joe. They're face to face, and she's just like beating on him and like, "What are you doing? No. Since she won't stop, he whips her around, grabs the top of her head like and pulls her back where his I like how I'm trying to show you as we're doing this, like anybody can see what we're doing. And his little mouth is like on her jawline.
Listen,
what?
I've questioned whether or not I'm a good feminist, right? But after the amount of times that we rewatched that scene, I know we're not good feminists.
Yeah, there's something wrong with
There's something wrong with us.
Yeah. Well, I will say I was like, oh, I was intrigued and I liked it until a certain point.
Yeah, it went south very quickly. Yeah. But in the beginning of it,
it was a little sexy.
It was a little sexy. Yeah, it was sexy.
And I forget what he said. He
just his jaw.
Oh, I think he's like, it didn't have to be this way. And then he's like, or did it? And then he like takes her whole head and smashes it on the bar to knock her out.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay.
That's where it wasn't fun. But before that, the jawline,
it was
physicality,
he was sexy,
and him pulling her hair back, and
just how big he
is.
He's
just so big.
Yes. And I think you mentioned like she did such a good job that like when he knocked her out, she just fell completely limp. And I was like, well, yeah, I would have too if I was the actress, because I knew he would catch me. So I'm a little thing compared to him, you know?
Because she did. He slammed her head down, and she went completely limp.
Right.
Like you can tell sometimes when people are still kind of holding themselves up. I've even seen scenes, nothing specifics coming to mind, but I've seen scenes where somebody was supposedly unconscious, but you like saw them move their arm to like hold on to the person that's carrying them, or things like that. No, she went dead limp.
Also, I've seen it where it's like they do something like that where they're on a table and knock them out over and they stay on the table. It's like, no. If she had been knocked out, she would gone to the floor.
Right.
Even if she was hunched over like she was,
Yeah. Your knees would have caved and she did good.
Yeah. That was a good call on you. Like, I didn't even notice till you said that. I was like, oh, yeah.
Whoever did the stunt work and the choreography for that whole scene.
Yeah.
Good job. Thank you.
After Sam knocks her out, we see that he has tied her to a post, which is so many tie-ups in this show.
So much bondage.
And
so much.
For some reason, he is after the story of what happened between Joe's dad, Bill, and their dad, John. Like what went down, how her dad died. Which
we were left with that, little, what's the word? Cliffhanger.
Oh, there you go.
We were left with that cliffhanger way back in No Exit. That was back toward the beginning half of the season. So it's been a while.
And so he is just pushing her for this story, even though it seems like he already knows it. But she tells him that their fathers were in California together and they were at this place called Devil's Gate Reservoir. And they were trying to get a trap for a hell spawn. And they used Bill as bait, and John went into hiding, who was going to like kill the thing as soon as it was going after Bill. According to Joe, John got too eager and somehow exposed Bill in his eagerness to kill the thing. And so the hell spawn killed Bill, which was, in her mind, it's all John's fault. Well, Sam ends up saying this new knowledge that, again, we know it's not Sam. So we're like, okay, how is Sam spewing all this knowledge about this situation he knows nothing about? But Sam corrects her and he says, no. The hellspawn heard your dad, but, it wasn't him that killed him. That John came up on Bill and he was clawed to pieces, guts out, like just from my understanding, from what it sounded like, he was dying anyway.
Right.
And that John killed him.
And we don't know what year this happened. I think that they've told us that Joe was a baby when this happened. I think she was really young. So it's not like John had the option of pulling out a cell phone and letting Bill call Ellen and tell her one more time he loved her and how sorry he was or anything. What was he supposed to do?
Or even like call like a helicopter care flight or whatever.
Yeah.
They're, like he was going to die. Like,
yeah.
Don't let him suffer is what I got the impression of what happened. Not that he just fucking cold-blooded killed his friend.
Same.
It was like a mercy killing.
Yes, agreed. And Sam's performance, Jared Padalecki's performance in this scene, is
again
sassy overboard. At this point, he's not even trying to still be Sam.
Mm-mm.
He is 100% whoever this mystery person is that we find out at the end. Just sass.
So as they're having this conversation, good old Dean comes in, gun up, ready to go. And Sam switches on a dime.
He did.
I mean, he was being a sassy self, like you mentioned. And then as soon as Dean comes in, he's like, oh, Dean. He's Sam. He's trying to play Sam again. And like his sweet little, oh, what are you doing?
The facial expression, like everything changed. Like you just said, as soon as Dean was in there, it changed right away. And also something he did say, he told Joe, like, I think he said something like daddy, like daughter, your bait.
Yes.
He was using Joe as bait for Dean.
Yep. And it worked because
Yeah.
Dean showed up.
Mm-hmm.
But Dean was like 2 steps ahead of all of us because he already knew what was up and came in and splashes, like just threw some water at Sam and he starts sizzling. And those black eyes come out and we realize, oh, he's possessed.
Yeah. We
He's
were still thinking
possessed by the
shapeshifter
demon.
or something.
Yeah. Which I'm like, why did we not even... Because I was racking my brain. I was like, it's got to be a shapeshifter, but what else could it be if it's not that? And it's like, as soon as that happened, I was like, why didn't I realize that? Why didn't that come to mind?
We haven't seen a demon since Croatoan.
Still, I mean, what show are we watching here?
Yeah.
Come on. I was disappointed in myself.
I kind of was too. We should have figured it out sooner.
Yeah. And there's like a little chase between the two brothers, guns up, and they're in some warehouse behind this bar Joe works at, and they're talking to each other, like, baiting each other basically. And Sam like throws something the other way and darts the other way to get Dean to think he's in a different place. And they end up on a dock. Dean doesn't see Sam at all, and out of nowhere Sam pops up and shoots at Dean. Dean goes overboard, which I thought he went into the water completely, but we find out that's not the case in a few minutes.
Which, going back to the bar, after Sam runs out, Dean cuts Joe loose.
Oh, yes.
And Joe goes, he was possessed? All shocked.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at you and be like, what the fuck, Joe? Like, you literally called it and said you're not Sam a long ass time ago. Why are you acting so shocked that he was possessed? You called it. You knew it wasn't him. And then I figured, oh, just like you and I didn't figure out he was possessed.
We're a little late to the game.
We both thought he was like a shapeshifter or something else too. So maybe that's what Joe thought. Because, at this point, we're as trained to be hunters as Joe is, right?
Right. Yeah. She doesn't
Sure.
have much experience. But
She's
neither
new.
do we.
Yeah. We're all new here. It's okay.
after that, Sam's gone. Joe is in the warehouse looking for them and she calls Dean and she can hear his cell phone ring while she's out on the dock. And she finds him below, which, lucky for him where he fell, it was like right on the edge of this docking situation where you would like take your car and put your boat into the water. And so he fell like just half in the water, half out. And she pulls him out, takes him inside, doctors him up. He was shot in the shoulder. And she got the bullet out, cleans him up. He's drinking some liquor to kill the pain.
I didn't think that he fell onto that thing. I thought, because his hair was wet. So I thought he fell in the water and managed to pull himself up onto that ramp thing and then just like took a nap.
Oh, you're probably right. Because I'd have to rewatch where he fell. But yeah, you're probably right.
Maybe his hair wasn't wet though. Maybe
I think it was.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been what happened. And then whenever Joe stitched him up.
She didn't stitch him up.
She didn't stitch him up.
That's the point. Both of us. She's like, I got the bullet out. And then she just put some gauze on there. And in my mind, I was like, she's not going to stitch him up. And then I think right after that, you were like, stitch him up? Maybe?
But again, she's new. She's new to this. She's learning. We'll cut our girl Joe some slack.
Yeah.
But yeah, that needed more than a gauze patch.
Yeah. And if there wasn't something to sew him up, like there's got to be a stapler around there somewhere to staple him up. But anyway, she just totally expects she's going to go with him. And of course, Dean's like, no offense, but if you come with me, like, what does he say?
He told her that if you try to follow me, I'm going to tie you back up. Something along those lines.
That's right. Yeah. Which, poor Joe. She's got too many daddies.
She's got daddy issues.
She's got her mom. She's got these two daddies. She's got a dead daddy. I mean.
And then after Dean left, he said, I'll see you later. Something like that.
I'll call you later.
I'll call you later. And she just said, no, you won't. Like she knew.
Oh, Joe.
She's growing on me.
Joe, you're all of us.
Yeah, she's growing on me, though.
She's grown up. But before he leaves, Dean mentions that obviously this demon is hunting hunters, and the closest one is in South Dakota. I was like, oh, South Dakota, okay, where are we going? And who does Sam show up at whose house? But sweet Bobby.
It's Bobby.
And I was excited to see him.
You were so happy.
Which, it's so funny because, like, I didn't know him in the show at all, but like from our bloopers and everything that you had shown me before, I was like, I'm going to like this guy.
Yeah,
I knew I was going to like him. Yeah. So I almost wish I hadn't seen that to just base it off the show solely, but I already know I would have liked him.
He looked so fucking cute when the door opened too. He
looked
so
excited to see. Yeah. I'm so excited to see Sam and brings him in and is like, what's going on? Where's Dean? And Sam said he took off. He's on a job of his own. And
I thought he said he was hooking up with chicks.
Oh, no, you're right. He was like, he's holed up in a hotel with a girl in a 12-pack.
Yeah.
And he said he thinks he's over his head while Bobby's going to grab them a couple beers. They toast, say a cheers to John, and Sam starts choking on his beer. It's like the steam coming out of his mouth. Clearly, Dean warned Bobby, and Bobby knew what was up, gave him holy water in the beer.
Or Bobby's just that fucking smart. We don't know. Mm-hmm.
Because we just assumed. But then in the next scene, Dean is there with Bobby, and Sam's tied up under the devil's trap in the house from before when Meg was there. I like to think that maybe Bobby's just that good and just saw something. Yeah. Immediately, he was like, oh, that's not Sam.
Chances are Dean warned him because Dean knew that was the closest hunter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and like you
Bobby's
said,
just that good though. Maybe he figured it out.
Right. And like you said, that's like their surrogate daddy now.
And like he said, after Sam took a drink from the beer, it's not like the holy water would have hurt Sam. Maybe that's just Bobby's MO. Maybe everyone that shows up at his house gets a little bit of holy water sprinkled in their drink.
I mean,
just in case.
I think I like his style. I would do the same. I mean, I would blame him.
You would be such a Bobby if we were hunters.
I was just about to say, way to be, Bobby. I like it. Super paranoid, and I like it. So since he's under the devil's trap, he and Dean, I think they exchanged a couple things, but then Bobby goes right into the exorcism, and right away something seems off. They threw some more holy water on him, and he steamed up a little bit, but other than that, the exorcism is doing nothing. He basically was like, oh, that's not going to work on me, and he starts chanting the Latin underneath the devil's trap as a demon, which I was like, holy shit, what's happening?
The fireplace started going crazy behind him. It was a really cool shot. Jared Padalecki had his head hanging, so his hair was kind of down as he was chanting the Latin. It was a really cool shot. I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, it was good. And Sam lets out this like menacing laugh when I think Dean mentioned like their master plan or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sam just laughs and he's like, you think I care about that? That's not what I'm after. Dean is like, what the fuck, Bobby? Like, why isn't this working? And Bobby sees that brand on Sam's forearm that we saw before, the circle with the slash through it. And he says it's like a lock. Like he's locked himself inside Sam's body. So this is nothing. It's not going to work.
I think he called it a binding spell.
Yeah. Yeah. As Sam is continuing to do the exorcism, he ends up breaking the ceiling where the devil's trap is. He gets out of his restraints.
His bondage.
Yeah. And he goes after Sam immediately, punches him, tells him, he's worthless. What are you even trying to do, you idiot, trying to do this? Pushes his thumb into Dean's wound where the bullet was. And I mean, Dean's got blood coming out of him. He's punched him a few times and tells Dean he's worthless. Like, who do you think you are? You couldn't even save your dad. And deep down, you can't save your little brother. He also so kindly mentions that he's talking about hell and that he saw their dad there and he says, howdy.
Yeah.
Which I would have been like, you mother. That would have given me some fire.
He also mentioned, you sent me back to hell. So we
find that's out where it started.
It's Meg. Yeah, it's Meg. So last we saw Meg Demon, I'm going to use she. She was in Croatoan and had possessed Dwayne because she used the cauldron again to make a call and let whoever's pulling all the strings here know that Sam was immune to the Croatoan virus. And at the end of the episode, I was asking you, what's going on here? Because obviously this whole I don't give a shit about the master plan thing is bullshit because we know from Croatoan that Meg is still working for whoever. Since we had that conversation, I think I figured it out. I think her job was to make sure that Dean wasn't going to be able to kill Sam. Because Dean, if they need Sam for something, Dean's the biggest threat to that plan. So I think that was this job. They've done the first check which was okay, he's immune to this virus. And so the second check is Dean's not going to be able to take him out. So that's our number one threat. It's not going to be an issue.
Well, I mean, guys, be a little more subtle. Maybe he would. Just saying. You make it so obvious it's not his Sam, so he's not going to kill him. I don't know.
That's the only motivation I can think of as to why Meg would possess Sam.
Oh, yeah.
What was the point of all this? That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I like that. As Sam is just like hovering over, torturing Dean, Sweet Bobby comes out of nowhere with a poker from the fireplace and puts that hot fire poker right onto the brand on Sam's arm, and immediately that demon is going black smoke out of Sam's mouth.
He broke the spell, basically.
Yeah. Which I wasn't expecting this, but Dean checks and he's like, hey, Sam, is it you? Like, are you good? And Sam's like, what did he say? I think he's like, I don't remember much or something like that.
What happened?
What happened?
He doesn't know what's going on.
And Dean just clocks him.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame him, Next up, we see that they're getting ready to leave, and Bobby comes in and is saying, hey, guys, do you know the name Steve Wendell? It looks like he's a hunter that somebody murdered him in his home. And they're like, no, we don't know anything about it. And Bobby says, well, all the hunters are getting together to find out who did this. So you better keep it that way.
Yeah.
Keep it that way that you don't know anything about it, which, again, one other thing I love about Bobby, he knows those boys like they're his own, and he knows they're lying. So he's telling them, just keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you say anything about it. Make sure you're not involved, and you'll be good.
I thought it was interesting.
Well, not that you're not involved, but like just keep it that you know nothing about it.
Yeah. Dean is who was immediately like, nope, don't know. And Sam was over to the side like, Dean, making his face,
Emo.
We know, like, and that's when Bobby said, good, keep it that way.
Yeah.
Kind of letting Sam know,
Mm-hmm.
We're not playing this game.
Yes.
Y'all don't know nothing.
Get out of your feelings, Sam.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Get out of your feelings and into my pants.
No. Not Bobby's, yours.
Oh, yeah. No, I meant me, not Bobby.
Before they leave, Bobby hands them some charms and says that these are protection charms from being possessed, which clearly they need.
Yeah. You need some anti-possession charms. Take these on the road.
And as they're driving off, Sam kind of confesses that he was awake for some of his possession and that he distinctly remembers the murder of Steve Wendell.
Yeah.
Which, to me, I'm like, okay, you remember it. But it's like, what were you feeling? It's great. It's not great. It's like, I get you remembered it, but I would think the only concern would be is if you had a feeling like you were satisfied by it or like that you really truly took part in it because you were possessed,
But knowing that you weren't in control of something,
yeah,
and having that visual memory of your hands, yeah, I can understand how that would be haunting.
Well, but I get that, but I think Sam is so determined to make himself out to be this terrible thing is what he's hinting at, which I'm like, but I don't think that's what his explanation was saying. It's like, yes, you remember it. It's horrible, but it wasn't you. Like, it was this thing that was possessing you.
He's been convincing himself since
I
Simon
know.
said
I
that
hate
he's, yeah, I do too, because he's our sweet little sassy pants Sammy,
Right.
and we hate it. But he's been convincing himself since, I think Simon said, if not sooner,
Yeah.
that he's evil. There's something wrong with him. And now Dean has straight up told him, oh, by the way, Dad said if I can't save you, I have to fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Which is only feeding that,
But that's the thing he says again at the end. He's like, it's not that I just have to kill you. It's only if I can't save you. Which makes sense.
Yeah. Dean's determined to save him.
Yeah, which means so it's like the demon coming and doing all this. It's like it makes sense. He's not going to kill him just to kill him. It's only if he feels he's lost cause and can't save him, then he'll kill him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was this episode. It was different, and I kind of liked that it was different.
It was. You can tell this was a director we haven't seen before. I didn't Google who directed it, but even in the scenes before the supernatural thing, you could tell this is a different vibe from something we've seen before. So I liked it. Not a lot of gore. I mean, there was a lot of blood, but I wouldn't say it was a particularly gory episode. No blood splooges. So let's go into adore. What did you adore about this episode, LA?
Well, I mean, we touched on it. I think the guy, like, Jared must have had so much fun with this character, like playing the two parts of him and the possession. Like that, I think was the best part of it. It was so good. And just seeing the other characters kind of catching on to it as well. I loved that.
I agree. I adored Jared Padalecki's performance in this episode. It was sincerely just artful.
Yeah.
Tiny little facial tics and just, it was so good. It was so good. Adored it. So on to the lore. We already have done a lot of research on demons and exorcisms and whatnot. So I decided to kind of bounce off of last week where you talked about people who blamed angels or God's will for their crimes and talk about someone who blamed possession for his crime.
Okay.
There was actually a film that was made around this infamous case. It was The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. It was based on the true tale of Arne Cheyenne Johnson, a man who was convicted of manslaughter in Connecticut in 1981. And he was the first person to have claimed a defense of demonic possession during a murder trial. And this is according to radiotimes.com. And the case, hence the movie title, the case became known as the Devil Made Me Do It case. The trial of 19-year-old Arne Cheyenne Johnson, who was charged with murdering his landlord, Alan Bono, in February 1981. During the trial, the defendant gained infamy for becoming the first person to claim a defense of demonic possession in a United States court, although perhaps unsurprisingly, this version of events was not accepted by the judge. His defense rested on testimony given by the family of his fiancée, Debbie Glatzel. Debbie's 11-year-old brother had reportedly been the subject of demonic possession in the months prior to the murder, with his parents having grown increasingly worried by a number of unexplained and ominous events. So the story really starts in July 1980, when the 11-year-old David was helping Johnson clean up a Connecticut rental property he was prepping to move so he could move in. While there, David claimed to have come across a, quote, burnt and black-looking old man who he claims pushed him into a waterbed, saying he would bring them harm if they moved into the house.
What?
I guess maybe there was a fire there. It's like a charred ghost. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's what the article says. When David returned home, he continued to see the old man. He described him as having a white beard, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. David claimed the man's skin was charred as if he'd been burnt too. See, I knew I didn't come up with that out of nowhere. The young boy experienced night terrors and woke up with bruises and scratches on his body. He'd wake screaming and tell his parents he'd seen the sunken features of the old man like an animal with horns, pointy ears, and jagged teeth. The family said they also heard unexplained noises coming from the attic. In trying to get to the bottom of the issue, they called Ed and Lorraine Warren, who by this point were already well-known paranormal experts. So they said, can you come diagnose and cure our kid? Ed Warren said he heard banging and growling sounds coming from their basement, and that he also saw a rocking chair moving on its own. Speaking to paranormal researcher Tony Spira, Ed claimed David's toy dinosaur also walked on its own towards the family. He also said a deep voice spoke to them saying, "Beware, you're all going to die."
That's so creepy, the way you just did that.
Lorraine also claimed she saw a black mist, which I thought that was interesting because of the black smoke and everything in the show. She saw a black mist appear next to David while her husband interviewed him. Quote, "While Ed interviewed the boy, I saw a black misty form next to him, which told me we were dealing with something of a negative nature. Soon the child was complaining that invisible hands were choking him and there were red marks on him. He said he had the feeling of being hit," she told People magazine. David's mother, Judy, had previously claimed it was a ghost, but the Warrens rejected that idea and said, these are all indications of a demon. After continued efforts from the Warrens, the Glatzels, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and multiple priests had a formal exorcism with witnesses claiming that a demon fled the child's body. Ed Warren claimed Arn, who was present at the exorcism, shouted, "Take me on, leave my little buddy alone." So the story goes that the spirit must have left David and gone into Arn, because he pretty much offered himself up as sacrifice. And it was under this demon's control that Arn then took the life of his landlord several months later. The murder is believed to be the first murder in Brookfield, Connecticut's 193-year history. I can't imagine that's true. Somebody else killed somebody and y'all just didn't catch it. And the first in the 30 years since the town had police records. That I would believe. The next day, Lorraine Warren immediately claimed that it was a case of demonic possession, which naturally led to much media coverage around the world. And the movie, I've seen it. It's pretty good. Yeah. I'm glad I didn't pay to go see it in the theater, but it's worth watching if you can catch it on something that you already have access to.
Yeah.
And so that was the lore I had as far as a demon taking control of somebody and going and committing crimes using their body.
Yeah. I feel like so many of those kind of situations and stories have been debunked, but you never know. I guess with that, we'll close it out. with a quote from Dean at the end of this episode where he's talking to Sam in the car and he says, dude, you like full on had a girl inside you for like a whole week.
Cheers.
Cheers to Meg.
Aw. Thank you for listening to Denim-Wrapped Nightmares.
Follow us on Twitter or Instagram, leave a review, and let us know how we can get involved in the fandom.
This was fun. Jerk.
It always is, bitch.